Seaborn is a statistical plotting library in Python. It's built on top of matplotlib, which means when you run a Seaborn command, it runs a set of matplotlib commands under the hood. It's built with beautiful default styles for the graph, which makes it easier to read and comprehend. Seaborn is designed to work very well with pandas data frame objects, and therefore it's the go-to library for plotting data in Python. To install the Seaborn package, you would need to use the commands conda install Seaborn if you are using the Anaconda prompt, or otherwise pip install Seaborn if you are using the command prompt. So Seaborn can be used for analyzing different types of data by using different types of plots for numerical data, for categorical data, and even for data in matrix format. So let's start by importing our libraries and some data to work with. So here we will import numpy snp, import pandas spd, import matplotlib.pyplot splt, import seaborn as sns, and we will run a one-line code matplotlib space inline. So this last line %matplotlib space inline, this will help to see the visualizations in the Jupyter notebook. Next, we will upload the dataset. So Seaborn comes preloaded with some datasets which we can use for practice purposes. So one of such datasets is called tips. To load the datasets, we can run the command sns.load dataset and just pass in the tips. So we can check the doc string here. It says load an example dataset from online repository. So this function provides quick access to a small number of example datasets. So we can use it for our practice as well. Let's run this. It will load the dataset. So let's check the head of the dataset. So this is our dataset. So it looks like it's from a restaurant. We have the total bill and we have tip data, and then we have some other categorical data. Now let's check the info. So in total it has 244 entries, range index going from 0 to 243, and 7 columns. Total bill, tip, sex, smoker, day, time and size. There are no null values here, and as we can see, the first two columns, total bill and tip, are float data. Then the next four are categorical data, and the last column seems to be integer data. So now that we have our data, let's move on to the regression plots. Now Seaborn has many built-in capabilities for different kinds of regression plots. However, here we will focus only on the lmplot function for now. Lmplot is used to display a linear regression model which estimates the relationship between two or more variables by using scatter plots and plotting a straight line through those. However, lmplot also allows us to split up those plots based off of features, as well as coloring the hue based off of features. So features are, like I said earlier, the features are just the categorical data. So we can once again use the row and column parameters to split the data like we did with facet grid, and then we have a hue parameter as well where we can color code another categorical column. A regression analysis is used for making future predictions in many different fields like finance, economics, stock markets of all the places, and then for market research and marketing, and most importantly, it is used in machine learning based on historical data. So a regression plot will basically plot scatter plots and then pass in a straight line through the data based on the best fit, and then we use that line to predict where a certain y value would be given the particular x value. So let's see this for our data. The code here is sns.lmplot, and if you check the doc string, we need data, then we need to pass in x and y. values, and then we will further divide it by hue, color and rows. So first for data, our data set is tips. Then on the X column, this is between two columns of the data frame, right? It's for the bivariate data. So on the X axis, we want to see the relationship between total bill, and on the Y axis, tip on the other hand. So let's run this, and here you go. So we have the total bill data on the X axis and tip data on the Y axis. So for all of the data points, we have this scatter plots here. So what lmplot does is it plots this straight line through the scatter plots based on the base fit method. So let's say if you say the total bill would be $40 and $50, the probability of tip being somewhere in the range of $5 to $6 would be very high now. But not all of the values will fall exactly on this. This is a prediction which is based on high probability of being in that zone. So now let's say you want to separate it for both sexes. So in the hue we can pass in sex, and so it will color code the data for both males and females, and it will further have the NM plot line, the linear regression line for both males and females separately as well. Now let's say you are still having difficulty reading this data and you want to further customize it. You want to use different kind of markers for both male and female. For that we have a parameter called markers here, which is by default given as O, which is for a circle marker. So you can pass in marker. If you want just different kind of marker but you want it to be same for both male and female, we can just pass in a single string here. V is short for this vertical markers, or you can pass in plus as well. You can check in different kinds of markers online. Now if you want different markers for both male and female, we can pass in a list here. So let's say you want a circle for males, but for females you want a V. So here we have circles for males and triangular markers for females. Now let's say you want to increase the size of this scatter plot as well. For this what we can do is we can pass in a scatter keyword, because we don't have a parameter directly given here for the size of the markers. We have markers but we don't have size of markers here. But remember, this scatter plot is based off of the matplotlib scatter plot, and here we have a parameter for scatter underscore keyword. So you can use the scatter plot keywords with this parameter, but you will have to pass in this like a dictionary here. So we'll pass in this, and here you can pass in a dictionary. Remember, the marker for size in the matplotlib for scatter plot is S. So we will pass in a key value pair. The key will be this parameter, and let's say we want size 100. Now let's run this and you will get bigger size of the markers here. Now let's say rather than doing all this, you want to further segregate the data based on different categories. So let's plot another LM plot for that. You want data to be tip. On the x-axis we want total underscore bill. On the y we want tip. We have our LM plot. Now let's say you want, rather than using different color combination, you want the sex column to be different columns. So here we have two different subplots, two different columns for male and for female. Now let's say you want to further divide this based on time. Remember, time is lunch and dinner. So we can pass in, we can use row parameter and pass in time for that. Let me zoom out. Yeah, so here we have time is equal to lunch on the first row and time is equal to dinner on the second row. Similarly, the first column is for male and the second column is for female. So that gives us four subplots, and we have the data based on that. Now once again you can further divide this for hue as well. Let's say for hue we will pass in day, and this Day will give us 4 different colors, which is very complicated. So what we can do here is we can pass, let's say we pass day for columns. This will give us 4 columns, 2 rows, and then for hue we will pass in 6. So we will have different colors for both males and females. Zoom in. This is better. So if you see, on the x-axis we have total bill, but we have divided the columns by day. So here we have Thursday, then we have Friday, then we have Saturday, and then we have data for Sundays. Rows were time, so the top row is for lunch, the bottom row is for dinner, and then U is sex, so blue ones are male and orange ones are female. And looks like there's no data here for lunch for Saturday and Sunday, and similarly there's one data point for Thursday dinner time. As you can see, most of the data is for dinner time for Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and for lunch it's mostly on Thursday. Looks like the dataset doesn't have a lot of data, because any restaurant will have a lot more people visiting for both lunch and dinner on all days. So maybe the data is not complete here, but anyway it helps us to analyze the data here. And then if you check further, if you want to use a different color combination for the hue, you can pass in that as palette. You can check different palette options or different color combinations or CMap in Seaborn. You can Google that and you will get different combination names. And then remember, we have a parameter for height and aspect ratio, so you can change that as well. And there are so many other parameters given here. These are for advanced uses. If you want, you can read this. The detail of those parameters are also given below, so you can just go to the docstring and read this in detail. Most of the time you won't need that. It's only for advanced users. If you want to further customize your graph, you can do it, but for basic analysis this should suffice. Now, so next we will move to style and colors. So